We got a little tasty treat on our hands, hockey fans. Four nations face-off, dropping the puck, Canada and Sweden. Everything you need to know for that game, bets, and fantasy fallout from the tournament coming in hot on Wednesday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Crack a beer, pour a cup of Joe, gather around the good stuff because it's your daily source for fantasy hockey news, betting breakdowns, and everything out of the world of NHL hockey. The Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip. Wednesday edition, my friends. Four Nations Face-Off has arrived, and we have everything that you need to know, including Jordan Binnington in the cage tonight against Sweden. Big announcement from John Cooper, Steele. That's definitely the big news of the last 48 hours in hockey. We'll talk about it. Who would you rather between Aiden Hill and Jordan Binnington fantasy-wise? We're always bringing the fantasy lens in here to make sure that you guys are building these winners. We got some same-game parlays to get to, and we're also going to take a look at some of the most intriguing line combinations from across the tournament because I think, Steele, this will always have impact on what's going to happen afterwards in the NHL. We got the trade deadline coming up too, so you got to be tapped in. That's why you're here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Over to you, brother. Jordan Binnington. I know we have a clear side here for fantasy-wise. That's fine. But what do you think about Jordan Binnington being named the starter over Aiden Hill? Because I don't think Montembeault is really in that conversation. No offense.
Yeah, I don't think he was. He's there, part of the team, third-string goaltender. He'll be scratched in this game against Sweden. I'm a little bit surprised that Jordan Binnington gets the nod, gets the start against Sweden in Game 1 of the Four Nations face-off. I think when you look at Aiden Hill specifically this season, we can look at his resume over the last 3 years specifically. But for this season, he's been the more consistent goaltender. He has the better record, hands down. It's not even a question. He's 20, 10, and 4 on the season. He has a better save percentage. He has a better goals against average. He has a better goals saved above average as well. I mean, when you look at Aiden Hill compared to Jordan Binnington, he's been on the better team. He's been the better goaltender all season long. So I think it's a little surprising for me that it goes to Binnington. And I know it's different from the National Hockey League. You're playing for your country. It's a tournament style of the best, but Binnington is still a wild card in my eyes. There's still a lot of still a lot of probability that he could get flustered. He could get in between the head, in between the ears, a little bit angry at times. And I'm not saying he's going to lose his cool, but that is always what sticks with me when I think of Jordan Binnington, is not being able to keep his cool, especially in this type of format against country on country. So I like Aiden Hill. He's been the better goaltender this year. Again, the overall production is still not what we would like to see from what he's done in the past with Vegas. He has a 900 save percentage, a 2.64 goals against average, but the record speaks for itself. I think he's been the more consistent goaltender over Binnington.
I think the record actually doesn't speak for itself because I'm going to say this. The Vegas Golden Knights are such a better team in front of him. They allow the third least goals against in the league. That blue line is vastly a better one than what's going on in St. Louis. So I think the numbers are just a bit inflated. Has he been more consistent? I can't disagree with you. You're correct 100%. But I don't think comparing the numbers is as indicative as actually how well Jordan Binnington has played at times. Has he been bad? Yes. Does he have the tendency to fly off the handle with what you just said and the in between the ears is a wild card situation? Yes, it is. But when I also look at what the Vegas Golden Knights blue line has done to insulate this goaltender this year, Steele, the Vegas Golden Knights allow the fourth least shots on net per game at only 26. The St. Louis Blues are putting Jordan Binnington out to dry. And the reason why I like this situation, and he was Jordan Binnington, the number one, in my opinion, all day long and then some, is also the track record in the NHL games played. They both have cups. I looked at the cup runs as well. Aiden Hill's run, spectacular, and actually statistically slightly better than Binnington's, and that's saying something because Binnington took that team from last place to Game 7 and won it against the Bruins. So I'm not just going to ride in on that. And we already getting into the who would you rather, because clearly you know where my angles lie. I guess what I'm looking at here is that crazy edge that you mentioned. And yeah, it's been more of a detriment than a positive, especially fantasy wise over the last 2 years. Tournament wise, I kind of like it. I think him being in behind a team this good with the big game clutch performer that he has been in his career, let's be clear, he's got the big game bone for sure. I think it's the right move to go with him because perhaps you are right. Aiden Hill this year has maybe been the safer play. So maybe they see what they get from Binner and Aiden Hill is the fallback. I don't know what you think about that because you're right. If he gets pumped by Sweden tonight, I don't see it happening. You know Aiden Hill will be going in there and probably staying in there for the rest of the tournament. I could potentially see that happening too.
Well, I'll finish off with this. Jordan Binnington has absolutely no excuse at this point if things go south on him.
Good point.
You just said that Aiden Hill has an incredible structured defense group in front of him. Well, look at the team in front of Binnington for Team Canada now. So if things go south, we know it's on him if it's not going his way. And I think that's the exact plan for John Cooper and Sullivan as well, is they have Aiden Hill to fall back on. Why not give it to Jordan Binnington to start against Sweden in the first game of the Four Nations Faceoff? But there's no excuses. There's no way he can get out of this one. The spotlight's on him. He's got to prove me wrong, is what I'm saying.
319 career regular season games for Binner, 906 save percentage, 280 goals against, 18 shutouts. Doesn't exactly jump off the page, but when you factor in his playoff numbers, which are better, and the run that he went on that year, 26 games played, 16 wins, stopped 70, saw more pucks than any other goalie that playoffs, obviously going to the Cup, was sensational. And I guess I'm just looking for this to perhaps steal if he does have a good tourney and throw some confidence in his game. I might be looking at Binner down the stretch to perhaps throw some value in the fantasy game, because I think this is a really good shot to build back up his confidence, because I think you'll agree with me on this. When his confidence gets rattled, he goes off the handle, and that's when he starts chucking blockers and throwing cross checks and all kinds of madness. I want to talk about it a little bit more after the break. A quick who would you rather. I think you know I want to be going Binnington. We'll focus on some of these tasty line combinations that we're looking at, Steele. We can't help but fantasize over what's going to happen. Connor, Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk on the top line for the USA. We'll take a look at Team Canada, Reinhart, McDavid, Mitch Marner on the top line. That might play into my same game parlay for tonight's matchup, dropping the puck at 8 o'clock. We'll get there. Today's episode is brought to you by our new friends at Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. Steele, you know how the big man feels on this side of the microphone about eating, and I'm going to tap into Factor heavy right after the show. 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week. You can customize your meats and meals to fit your lifestyle. Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. They have you covered at Factor. We love it. It's convenient. It's delicious. Get into it. Eat smart with Factor and get started right now at factormeals.com/lockedon NHL 50 off and use code LOCKEDON NHL 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus shipping. That's code LOCKEDON NHL at 50 off at factormeals.com/lockedon NHL 50 off to get 50 off your first box at Factor.
And thank you so much for tuning in for Wednesday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, making it your first listen every single day. You're joining Flip Livingstone and your boy Steele Roden. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the love and support we receive on our show. Make sure you share with your friends and family out there. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. It really does mean the world to Flip and I seeing all that love out there. So thank you so much for all of that. We're going to show some love to this Four Nations Face-Off tournament, show some love to some of the top line combinations that we're going to keep an eye on, keep our eyes peeled for this hockey tournament coming up, starting tonight, Canada and Team Sweden. Flip, welcome back to the show.
My bad.
All good, brother. We're getting after it with
laptop was dying there. I had to swerve around or else this was about to go dark on us. But hey, we're here, baby. And tonight I'm fired up for it. Look, let me just get this off my chest quick before we get to what you were just saying, because I think I have heard it correctly.
Yeah.
It's a tough sell for Binnington against Aiden Hill. He's older. He's older. He's been inconsistent. He's clearly on the worst team between the two. So I'm fighting a losing battle. I guess it's just my preference in terms of I like risking it sometimes with Jordan Binnington because also Aiden Hill is a goaltender that played a lot of hockey on some bad teams, and he deserves credit for where he's at, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I guess I just also still see the value in Jordan Binnington, especially when you're going with that 0G philosophy. But I'll give you a T on this one. Aiden Hill this year been the slightly better goaltender. Is he the better goaltender overall, though? I guess is what I'm getting at. Time will tell. Where do you want to go? Team USA, Sweden, Canada? I kind of had to swirl around to plug that in, so I missed where you wanted to go next, but you take us there, pal.
Talk about line combinations, our
Giddy up.
favorite lines going into the tournament. I'm going to save Canada for big-time bets because I got a lot to say about them, and obviously they have an incredible lineup, forwards and defensive group. Goaltenders is probably where they struggle the most heading into game one against Sweden. You know, we just talked about some of the favorite MVP bets for this tournament as well, and that's probably where I want to start with. I have another line in mind, but when you look at Team USA and the lineup group they have in their offense, it is undeniably there's a reason they're the favorites to win this, slight favorites ahead of Canada right now. And, you know, there's a couple of different projected lineups. I'll go off the one that you sent me over Instagram. I'm looking at the top line of Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, and Matthew Tkachuk. I think those are three players who fill a different role, but can find the chemistry and find the angle to play within one another. They're all goal scorers, but you look at Kyle Connor and what he's done this season. He puts the puck in the back of the net on a nightly basis. Jack Eichel, one of the best playmakers in the game right now, which we rarely talk about on the show. And then Matthew Tkachuk, who does a little bit of everything. He scores goals, he play makes, he antagonizes the opposition, which is exactly the type of player you want on your team. So that for me, number one, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, and Matthew Tkachuk is a deadly force to be reckoned with. Number two, before I hand it over to you, I'm looking at Team Sweden right now, and I'm very intrigued about the top line of Mika Zibanejad, William Nylander, and Jesper Bratt. Another player in Bratt who we rarely talk about because he plays alongside, Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and Luke Hughes on the blue line and Dougie Hamilton and what's up. But Jesper Bratt has made a name for himself in the National Hockey League. I think more specifically, alongside him, what does it mean for Mika Zibanejad? We were just talking about him turning his game around after that trade for JT Miller. I think this gives him a further opportunity to find his joy, find his happiness in the game, playing for his country, playing with his countrymen in this Four Nations tournament. And then alongside him on the right-hand side, probably the best player on their team, William Nylander, another force to be reckoned with. So right there behind Team USA's top line, Sweden's top line is very intriguing to me because I think they can do some damage.
I think there's some changes that have happened over the last, I don't know which one you're looking at.
The projected lineups are going to change, but that's what I'm reading off Daily Faceoff right now. It probably has changed, but I think that top line that I just mentioned, it's definitely one to keep an eye on for.
Most definitely. It looks like they've swapped, because I got Daily Faceoff here open on the desktop, and they've got Raquel with Zibanejad and Nylander, Forsberg, Pettersson, and Kempe as the top line. But you're spot on right. There is no real number 1, 2, 3, or 4 until we see these teams play. And because of all the talent, the shuffling of the lines is it's inevitable. I love the angle that you're covering here with Sweden. I actually think that top line could make some world. Philip Forsberg, Pettersson, Kempe could be an interesting one to look at. We'll get to Team Canada. Team USA, you already covered it with Connor, Eichel, and Tkachuk. That's definitely their top line, in my opinion. But the one that I'm looking at to really wreak havoc and cause damage, the speed and skill of Gensel, Matthews, and Jack Hughes is going to be very difficult for anybody to handle, just speed-wise. Skill, get out of here. But that is a very speedy line. If they get chemistry going, it's going to be, they can put Montembeault, Hill, and Binner in there, and they still might score some goals. First power play unit for the USA, not bad either. Jack Hughes, Matthews, Eichel, Tkachuk, and Adam Fox. Also pretty speedy. I could see Werenski slipping in there as well, and that might even be more deadly. I guess what I'm really looking at here, Steele, is what team is going to play sound hockey on the back end, because that's how Canada's won tournaments in the past. And they've gone with this approach in their bottom six, right? Bennett, Sorelli, Hagel. They're not there for roses and highlight goals. These guys are John Cooper's picks, and they're going to be up the you-know-whats of every opponent, especially these Americans. I'm excited for Saturday night. Big time, my friend. Let's talk about Team Canada's lines. Let's talk about bets and this game. I say we go there after break, but wherever you want to go, I'm ready.
Yeah, well, we got to mention Team Finland as well. We've
My
gone through
bad. Yes, I
USA.
do.
We've
I have
gone
a
through
line that I like
Canada.
on Team Finland. Sorry about
We
that.
got to talk about Finland just a little bit, and obviously they're the least favorite to win this Four Nations hockey tournament. They still have a good chance. They have some really good players. Obviously, some injuries have hindered them. In the meantime, losing Miro Heiskanen, losing Rasmus Ristolainen, some other guys in the top in the forward group as well.
Yeah.
When you get down to the bottom six group for Finland, it gets a little bit wary. You have
Blue line's bad too.
Joel Armia, Anton Lundell. I'm not saying they're bad players, but when you compare them to the other three countries in this tournament, it just doesn't rank the same. But right here, it's their top line: Mikko Rantanen, Alexander Barkov, and Arturi Lehkonen. A guy in Lehkonen who can really he can play with anybody. You can put him anywhere in the lineup, and he's going to find chemistry. He's going to work with his line mates to do what he has to do. And then you have one of the best two-way centers in the game, Mikko Rantanen, who has struggled in Carolina so far. Again, another chance to kind of find his game, find his footing after being traded from Colorado.
Could be huge for fantasy.
It could be huge for fantasy because it's been pretty abysmal for him in my fantasy league right now. He's done nothing in Carolina pretty much. So I think it gives him also a good opportunity just to find some joy, find some happiness in his game, find the back of the net, which he has struggled to do in a Canes jersey.
Yeah, that blue line's also pretty thin. The
goaltending, it's just not the same.
I like. This is a situation where UC Saros can steal. This is only a couple of games here. UC Saros goes on a heater, and this Finnish team shuts it down. Hey, they're a dark horse for a reason. I believe they're sitting at plus 950. I'm not putting any money on it, but there's only 4 teams in this. There's a shot. They have a shot. And the second line for me, Steele, is where I think this team is actually going to butter its bread, because Lehkonen, Barkov, and Rantanen are going to eat the share of going up against the top line, quote unquote top line, most dangerous line of the opposing team. Hence Aho and Laine. I think those guys have to be the trigger men. Aho feeding to Laine, I think, could be a very dangerous situation as well. So I think if that second line can maybe find some production, this Finnish team is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with, because I think you know what you're going to get with Barkov, Rantanen, and Lehkonen. That's going to be not only a tough offensive unit to handle, they're going to be pesky on the forecheck, and there's a couple of big boys on that line ready to bring it in some proper two-way hockey, which I think is really the Finnish brand. So let's see what happens. I want to talk about Team Canada's lines, though, and this game between Sweden right after the break.
We can talk about Team Canada's line during big time bets. That's exactly what I'm going to break down, is that top line right there. It's absolutely a special thing. So we can break down them as we go. That is coming up next. The Four Nations Faceoff tournament this week. This episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shell variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to snack. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock is when you can find our episodes from both Flip and I. We could not be doing this show without all of our listeners out there. So thank you so much for all that love. Share with your friends and family if you can. It really does help us out a lot. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, and leave a 5-star review. We really do appreciate it. We really appreciate this Team Canada and how they're shaping out to be, regardless of the goaltending situation. The top forward group and that defense group is undeniably one of the strongest, obviously, in the Four Nations Faceoff. The best of the best playing against each other. What do you like about the top 6 forward group overall, the entire team for Team Canada?
I think what I like about the entire team is it's John Cooper behind the bench pulling the strings. No, it's not true. It's not true. But I like that a lot as well. I think what I like, Steele, is they've built this team very much like they built the team. I'm really butchering the year. I think it was Sochi. I think it was the Sochi Olympics in 2014 where the Canadians allowed like 3 goals the whole tournament. It was a bit boring hockey, but they played real NHL hockey. It's not a fantasy tournament, right? Like this isn't run and gun. It's not street ball. These guys played to win. And I think if they follow that same mantra, which I don't know if you've seen any of the clips from practice, these guys aren't fooling around. Sid, McDavid, McKinnon, they're in there getting nitty gritty and getting serious. So yeah, I'm fired up. What I like the most about this team, Steele, is it looks like it's very well balanced, the lines. Let me explain. Crosby, McKinnon, Stone. You got the fastest skater in the game, arguably, in McKinnon to balance out. Sid's not a spring chicken anymore. Can he still skate? Sure. But Mark Stone's banged up and his foot speed isn't exactly what it was. Perfect line. Sam Reinhart, the trigger man, along with 2 guys who distribute the puck better than most in Marner and McDavid. Chef's kiss. Marchand, Point, Jarvis. Love it. And then you got some gritty grinders who can also bring it offensively. Cirelli, Konechny, and Hagel. Let's go. I say Canada going to go on a nice run here. It's only the Americans that I'm worried about. That's kind of a very plain take, but I like the top line the most, Steele. I'll turn it over to you because I think we're on the same page there.
Same page indeed. Chef's kiss to the lineup group right here.
You like that one, eh?
Incredible.
Thank you.
Absolutely love that one, Flip.
Appreciate it.
I mean, there's nothing much else to say. Whether, again, there's going to be some mixturing of the lines like we will definitely see
probably
in game as they do. But whether it's McKinnon and Marner on that top line right side with McDavid, whether it's Crosby jumping up to that second line in between those two as well, doesn't matter. They have so much talent, so much skill. You can't go wrong with anyone. And then you have Cale Makar on the back end too. Oh my goodness. It is going to be a force to be reckoned with on the power play. And that's where I'm going with these big time bets for game 1 of the Four Nations Face-Off. Canada taking on Sweden. My first pick, I'm going to Sam Reinhart, anytime goal, plus 185, plus 185 right here. He's the favorite to get an anytime goal right now because of who he's playing with, because of what you just said, the playmaking ability of Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, and Nathan McKinnon. You also have him on the first power play unit with McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, and Makar. You park him right in front of the bench. He's got great hand-eye coordination. He digs for those pucks. He battles. I like anytime goal from Sam Reinhart at plus 185. Alongside that, Cale Makar, anytime point at minus 156. I mean, if you're going to give me Makar anytime point at minus 156, I'm taking it every single day of the week right here on the power play. He's on the top right D pairing. I really just like the shape of this team. You have the best players in the world on Team Canada, and those are my 2 favorite picks. I'll leave my third after you talk.
Giddy up. I like it. Right now, I'm looking at this game as exactly what I was alluding to about Team Canada playing a very defensively stingy brand of hockey. Can we get excited about this offense? Of course. But I'm looking at this situation as this team is going to clamp down, and I like it at under 6.5. It's sitting at 5.5. I'm going to take it up to 6.5, and you're still getting a pretty good odd. I believe it's minus 154. But this is the same game parlay I'm going to smash it with right alongside your Sam Reinhart anytime goal, Mitchell Marner anytime assist. I think that top line is really going to cook. And even though Mitchie's not on that number 1 power play unit, not a bad second one, Steele, I'd say. Braden Point, Mitch Marner, Travis Konechny, Mark Stone, Shea Theodore. He's going to get some looks. If Team Sweden isn't disciplined, and I think maybe you could say this about every team in the tournament because there is so much firepower. If Team Sweden isn't disciplined, I really do think they're going to pick them apart on special teams. So Mitch Marner, anytime assist is my second point. Goes nicely with your Reinhart play. And I'm going to wrap it up with Canada money line. Lock of the night, though, is the under 6.5. I really do think this is a 3-2, 3-1, 4-2 situation. Under 6.5 is my favorite pick, by the way. Under Mitch, Canada money line, gets you paid out at plus 335. So a nice little payout as well. I'm feeling those 3 picks. Let's go Team Canada.
I'd also take the Canada money line as well, minus 255. Not a great odd, but they are favorites for a reason. I don't have that in my 3 favorite picks. You're going to show some love to a Maple Leaf. I'll show some love to a Maple Leaf. And I'm going to Team Sweden with William Nylander. He's the top goal scorer for them. He's going to be shooting the biscuit, shooting the puck every time, every chance he gets. I'm also going with the William Nylander anytime goal at plus 300. You actually have to press the show more option to get to where the first team Sweden player is on the anytime goal player chart right here. You have 6 Canadian ahead of the first Sweden player in William Nylander, plus 300 to score a goal. My lock of the night, though, Cale Makar, anytime point, minus 156.
I like it. That's going to get smashed into mine for sure. I think I like that one the most out of your picks, so I'm feeling it. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled on the tourney, because even if you're not really a fan of these 4 teams, which is totally fine, respect it, it's going to have impacts a lot in terms of that confidence. Guys playing bad out of this tournament, even an injury or, some frustrations, it's not going to go well after the break. So, keep it tapped to the pod. We'll have it all broken down for y'all.
8 p.m. tonight, puck drop, game 1 of the 4 Nations Faceoff. Make sure you're staying tuned in for that. Tuned in to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod. Thank you so much for making it your first listen. For your second listen, though, make sure you go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with those bets tonight. Go Canada, go. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.